Welcome, true believers, to another episode of Fake Nerds Watch, where we're talking about the Marvel series What If. It's time for episode 4, baby. What if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands?
Womp womp.
I'm Sparks Whitty, and I'm joined, of course, by Ryan Eliopoulos.
Hello.
And Ben Magnet.
That's me.
And Brandon T. McClure.
What's up?
And we're
Sup?
here to dig into just the 4th episode of Marvel Studios What If. And
That's all I got.
And I am pumped to talk about this one because I gotta say, guys, this was a banger episode.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Brandon, what's the Star Trek thing? Like every odd one's good or every even one's good? Which one is
every
it?
even one. The classic movies were good, and now it's odd for the new movies.
Gotcha. So every even episode's going to be excellent for the series. I think that's what we're going off of, judging off the second episode and in this episode.
This is also the first time that in the series. This is also the first time that every cast member returns, reprises their roles from the MCU.
Yeah, including
Leslie Bibb.
Leslie Bibb.
Yo, that was
who they
wild.
just keep using in such small roles. Because again, like I know some of you still haven't checked it out, but on YouTube you can just watch like a whole bunch of fake news videos that are like 5 minutes long of Leslie Bibb playing her character, talking about stuff happening in the MCU
She's
around the time of
news
Ant-Man and
reporter.
Civil War. Wild.
Yeah.
Wild. And yeah, she's back. She's on the TV in this episode.
What a nice. That must be so nice as an actor, because like you're not a Robert Downey Jr., but like you still get called, and like you do 2 lines, and you still probably got a decent paycheck just to like show up for a minute. Like it's also just really cool to like they still use actors who are not really relevant to the movies at all.
I'm
it's
waiting,
just really cool.
I'm waiting for Leslie Bibb to be like the friendly reporter to Spider-Man that J. Jonah Jameson is not.
Oh my god!
Like
just
she
put her
writes
in-
like a good tell-all on with him or something.
Like you got J. Jonah Jameson just like yelling about how Spider-Man is public enemy #1, and then Leslie's like, okay, look, what's the deal here? Like she's calm, collected. She's not attacking him.
Man.
Christine Everhart.
Yes.
Her character's name.
Yeah. Got all them voice actors in, and it makes a difference with Benedict Cumberbatch for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think this episode would be as good if someone were trying to play his Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
I think it's helped sold by this. I will immediately address that. Like the last episode I was talking about, I was really tired of like callback dialogue. Well, it's not here, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, like we saw. Like again, we saw the entire movie of Doctor Strange, but they really didn't use any of the lines from Doctor Strange very much.
They only in service to remind you this is that part of the movie. So we do hear a normal move come to bargain.
Yeah.
But we don't. It's not.
It's very brief and it's very minor, and I don't mind like that kind of thing.
Yeah, because it's telling you this was the movie.
Yeah.
We saw that movie. Did it? Cool.
And then we're not going to talk about it anymore.
See, it would have been frustrating if we had like a weird spin on like lines between Doctor Strange and the Ancient One in their conversation. That's like now one of them is saying the other thing back to the other, and I didn't need that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I also wonder if it's maybe that just the dialogue in the Doctor Strange film is less iconic.
Yeah, that could be.
I would say every line besides Dormammu have come to bargain, because that was meme to high.
Yes, of course, that one is iconic.
What do you mean? They have that great Wi-Fi joke.
Well, I mean, there is the one where it's the Strange joke where he is like, it's strange. Well, maybe.
Yeah, they did rehash that joke.
They did rehash that joke.
Like he keeps calling him Armani instead.
I remember taking a note of that, and I was like, oh, boy.
Mr. Doctor.
But that was the only one, so I'm like, I think my other thing about that one is I don't mind them doing that joke again. I just think it was better when it was Mads going like Mr. Doctor.
Yeah. So what do we think about this episode? This is it's not necessarily a what if something happened different in Doctor Strange, because the movie still happens much in the same way as we know
It's kind of like
although
it's like
it
a
couldn't
sequel.
have, it happened a little differently because the whole scene at the hospital would have to be different.
Yeah, it would have to have been different,
because the whole like what if part is what if Strange and what was her name?
Christine.
Thank you. It was Strange and Christine never broke up, and they're still together. And then
what if Christine has to die?
Yeah, that's the fixed point. Yeah.
Okay. So have you guys ever seen that movie, the Time Machine?
Yes.
Yeah. So when he goes back in time,
with Guy Pearce?
and he tries to keep saving his wife, and then it no matter how many times he tries to air quotes save her, she always dies.
Based off a famous novel. Yes.
Yeah. So it's essentially that where he goes, I'm just gonna go in the future, and he goes in the future. But every time, like every single time, I was like, oh no, this is like she has to die. No matter what happens, Christine Palmer dies.
Called an absolute point.
An absolute point. So of course that would drive Strange to madness because he's in love with her.
I definitely I turned to Ryan when it worked through the montage up to the bit where Strange switched who was in what seat. And she still died after he'd been sitting in that seat. I'm like, I mean, how do you not take it personally at this point?
There is a question I have about the absolute point in time, because we know that this being a what if, being a branched reality, the way he becomes the Sorcerer Supreme isn't fixed. He either loses his hands, or he loses Christine, or he could lose something else. I am curious how that fits in with the rules of their multiverse at this point. But I'm not. It's not something.
So I wonder if that is like it is it absolute because it is the variation. Like
Sure.
if it doesn't happen, it's not a variation.
Like this variant of Doctor Strange always has to lose Christine.
Right, because
and a different variant would lose something else, and
right,
so on
because
and so
if it didn't happen, then it wouldn't be different. So this universe requires that.
Just because it is a universe that is like almost an exact like copy of ours, it doesn't mean like the same events have to happen. So like it might be a similar universe, but in this other universe, like the rules are different, even though they look so similar.
Well, but what I was talking about, and I don't want to dwell on this because this is stupid. But the idea of having these branched timelines as we know them is that someone makes a different decision that creates a ripple effect and creates an alternate universe.
Yeah.
So how would a fixed point in time fit in with all that if we know that? And I like Sparks' idea of every Doctor Strange variant has a different inciting incident throughout the multiverse, and it's not always the same.
Yeah, I think even arguably like every person, but let's just say for the context of the MCU, every hero has a specific fixed point, and like that determines whatever that version of them is. And for the universe to successfully exist as it is, that fixed point cannot change.
And it's whatever the plot needs.
And if it's changed, then that universe doesn't exist. Which is very much like what it is, because like theoretically, excuse me, so sorry. So it does play in weird with the concept of if you go back, which is like kind of what Endgame implied.
I looked this up. There's two different types of time travel.
Yeah. So like, you know, if you go back, you're just creating the alternate multiverse.
Right.
But that's not what Strange is doing, because he's going
just
back in the same
reversing his own timeline
of that specific universe. And when you're trying to do that against a fixed point, it can never be changed.
Then it turns into chaos magic, which is what happens.
The MCU's rules of the multiverse I look forward to exploring as they get further along in this.
I try not to dig too much.
I don't need explanations because it's so big.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
I'm
saying that I like that sort of thing. So as we progress further into the MCU, I'm interested in seeing the new logic that they will implement. But
my one thing like about the MCU time travel multiverse stuff is I'm gonna always try not to get too hung up on any of this really nitty-gritty details, because Spider-Man Homecoming opens with a 6 years later time caption that can't be possible. So I'm like, someone is not paying attention all the time anyway.
8 years later.
Right. It's there's nobody doing that kind of like meticulousness of making sure that these things can flow together and make sense. And that's fine. Yeah, that's fine that there's no one at Marvel Studios doing that. I don't need to think about the fact that they should.
I mean, the last thing I want to say on this, the idea that like we know that they had like a summit of some kind to discuss what the rules are going to be going forward with this multiverse concept. So the idea of like exploring that in the future is exciting to me. That's all I was saying.
I agree. I also this is less relevant to this episode, but just in general, like as things go forward, there definitely could be something where like you'd look back before they made decisions like that and go, how does that work? How does that make sense? And I'm like, they didn't think about it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I think Dormammu looks great in this animation, better than he did in the movie, my opinion. I'm just gonna say that.
Okay.
When we see him briefly.
Sure, I guess. I don't really sure.
I think a lot of the animation in What If in the What If show works really well when it comes to creature designs, alien designs, any sort of things that's not humans.
Yes.
Humans they struggle with, but I think in the case of Dormammu, or in the case of episode 2 where we saw a ton of aliens, I think there's
or even beyond Dormammu, all the different things he summons and absorbs.
I think that's where the animation is shining for me. whether or not it looks better, but the idea of seeing
this is me
these
more
characters-
revealing that I'm not crazy about Dormammu's appearance
Sure.
in the movie.
Yeah, I just think it's fun it's fun when Marvel Studios lets What If play in this realm, because we're not just seeing a bunch of people, we're seeing creatures and whatnot. And like also the way they visualize the magic is really interesting. I really like some of the explosions that happen. The way that Strange morphs is really cool in this animation.
They use effects that they don't really use in like American animation. It's very much like an anime type thing. Like it's very much like the last 15 minutes was straight just like an anime battle happening in front of us, which was just excellent. Just really, truly cool stuff. Like Doctor Strange has always been cool in the MCU, but like to have him really unleashed, like I guess in Endgame we saw him the most unleashed that we've ever seen him. But like here, this dude's like he's absorbing dozens, if not hundreds, thousands of demons, getting stronger and stronger over hundreds of years. Like that's just wild.
The Weekly Planet had a thing where they would talk about the Doctor Strange movie, and like I like the Doctor Strange movie. I think it's a fun movie. But the magic in it is just kind of like sparkle pentagrams and sparkle whatevers. What made Infinity War so fun and interesting is that the fight with Thanos and Doctor Strange, he's actually using magic. They're magical abilities that you can recognize from the comics.
Right.
You get more of that, and you get kind of that in Thor Ragnarok.
Sure.
Not a lot. He's not in a
you don't get that
in but when we see it in What If,
I think even
it's the
like
same thing.
I think even like to your point, like one of the things that's limiting about Doctor Strange, at least when I go back to it about the magic scope, is that it's not just the way that like the sparkles of their powers are, but it's like the only thing that I think is truly like visually like bending with the kind of play that I want to see the magic doing is the sequence where he's sent out of his body.
Yeah.
But when you're doing like the rest of the stuff, it's all just like make buildings move.
It's just a mirror dimension stuff.
Or like end up in place that's not actual place, or that you shouldn't be able to through a doorway, and it's all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, that's fairly pedestrian for its magical stuff. Whereas like this is much more in the realm I want to see things with Doctor Strange with magic going forward. Makes me really excited for Multiverse of Madness, because they know now these are the kind of visuals that are on the table. They wouldn't like. It's got to have at least some of this.
And I think we're going to see some of that in No Way Home also.
Yeah,
I suspect so as well.
And also like, I'm fine on Doctor Strange too, but I also think that movie, like, it's the origin, so he can't be doing like all this crazy stuff at the beginning. So,
I'm not bothered about him not doing it. My point being more like just the magic that everybody is doing is all kind of lumped into that kind of environmental magic, rather than we're not seeing this kind of audacious.
No, I know. Yeah, they're at like a school and they're being trained like one type of thing.
Which
like,
I think is one of the things where Doctor Strange comes out like these visuals of how the buildings are moving are impressive, but they're kind of also like very muddy of here's what they can do, and that's the kind of the extent of it.
It's also in like a mirror dimension where like stakes aren't real, so like it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter.
I think so. So going into What If, we get more of Doctor Strange using magic, which I think is just always welcome, and really reminds me like, oh yeah, I every time I see this character, I'm reminded that I like this character, and I'm always kind of forget for some reason.
Yeah, it's a perfect follow up to the fan reactions to the No Way Home trailer, saying like, "Well, Doctor Strange isn't that reckless; he would never do this." And I'm like, "Excuse me, let's watch this episode of What If real."
Y'all don't know Steven, like we know Steven.
Like I don't. Even just like if you watch Doctor Strange, he took the Eye of Agamotto.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think there's an idea, and I kind of get where this idea comes from because of story structure for just that movie, Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
That he became a wiser person by the end, a more calm, serene idea of himself, rather than like when he was reckless, he was pre his magic, pre like just being his doctor self. And like he has his personality and his attitude, but his like his decision making is more centered.
But he's still got an ego, and he still gets challenged.
100%. I'm agreeing with you, but the story structure of Doctor Strange makes it seem like he's a person who has it well put together after a year of training at the end of the film.
No.
Just that movie. Yeah. Not counting Infinity War, not counting anything Thor Ragnarok, all that kind of stuff. I think that character is always still there. I do see how if you are only familiar with Doctor Strange from that movie, as an origin piece, and you're not familiar with who he is outside of that existence, I get how that's the vibe you come to at the end.
Sure. Well, damn, they've missed like 7 Doctor Strange appearances then, I guess.
I really liked a lot of the visuals with this episode. We talked about the Doctor Strange. Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
The Doctor Strange, who is trying to get all the other magical beings from different dimensions and absorbing them, and the montage of going through the centuries of him doing that.
Yes.
And always cutting to what the thing was, to what he became with it, is I think always engaging and a lot of fun to look at.
Yeah.
Like see him constantly turn into a monster or parts of a monster after he absorbs something is just so cool. And then at the very end of the episode, when he actually does save Christine and ends the world, him looking at him and becoming like his design looks something straight out of H.P. Lovecraft. That's an eldritch Lovecraftian monster right in there. So of course
Many
Christine
eyes.
is freaking the F out.
Mm-hmm.
Steven,
I
what happened?
draw the line of bugs, but I like the cape, and he takes the.
Yeah,
We get a fun cape battle.
The bug,
Yeah.
bug supreme.
The other thing is that in this episode it's revealed. So the crux of this episode is that after many attempts to try and save Christine, the Ancient One appears to Doctor Strange and splits him in his own timeline. So it's having two Doctor Strange exist in one timeline, living two different.
I'll admit
timelines.
this was a little confusing at first. I don't think it's executed well, if I'm being honest. It gets the idea across, and I know they didn't want to dive into the multiverses fighting each other immediately, so they had to do this thing where we split this universe into two, which I get. I think the way they explained it was a little. If you're not fully invested, I think it's a little confusing.
Yeah.
One of the things I actually really liked about this episode is the Watcher.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that later.
Yeah. Okay.
Can we talk about that a little later?
Okay, we talk about that a little later.
Appreciate it.
I think that the use of Christine is pretty good. I like Rachel McAdams in the role.
I was really worried
I
at
like that
first.
it is also very much like it is definitely on a different path from the movie, because we start off like pre-accident. He is a much more doting, caring
Oh yeah.
lover of Christine rather than
Yeah.
more passive towards her.
He would never. This Doctor Strange would never say, like that in that argument that they have, where she's like, "This is the part you apologize," and he goes, "This is the part where you leave." Never would have happened.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
obviously it didn't happen because they're still together.
Which is a decent chunk change to his character. Of like
got
a
to
big
him-
part of why he wasn't like that
Yeah.
was because of his ego and his arrogance that got in the way of him being.
She
with
got to him
Christine.
early. Yeah.
Yeah. But I like it, and I like the relationship, and I like both Christine, but she's not able to do as much. Rachel McAdams isn't able to do as much as Benedict Cumberbatch is in this episode, but the emotional range for both of them, Benedict Cumberbatch especially, some really, really great moments, especially his pain at losing her, but his pain at losing everything at the very end.
Yeah.
The idea of Benedict Cumberbatch. No, sorry, that's the wrong sentence I wanted to say. Benedict Cumberbatch is. The things he could do with his voice are always so fascinating to me. Smaug, he's Smaug.
Yeah.
And a lot of what he does isn't modulation. It is just him doing
Right.
that. And we get a little bit more of that performance in this episode.
Yes, he's very talented at something that he's able to do very successfully is make these characters, both when they interact with each other, sound like Doctor Strange, but not sound like the same Doctor Strange.
Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Not many actors can pull that off in a single scene to make those two sound like they are the same person, but also not the same person.
Yeah.
Where if I listen to this as a radio play, I don't think I'd have to visually see both of them to know which one it was.
Yeah, I agree. Benedict Wong is always fun to watch.
Oh yeah.
I like the bit where he's just where they're doing the Guardian Vishanti thing, and he's just like, and he's like, would you do this? And he was like, well, I have to stop him for no other reason than to save you.
Right.
As he's like also
It's pretty cute, yeah.
Yeah.
And also tragic at the same time, because Wong is being eaten by what's happening at that
Yeah.
very moment. I think the moment when Wong knows what he's thinking and he says, "I suggest you come out and have some tea with me before you do something reckless,"
Yeah.
is a really good moment. I think it's a very I'm excited for the next Doctor Strange movie also because I want more of the Wong Strange relationship explored in a way that the first movie simply couldn't because it was an origin.
Yes.
And I want this. This is what I want that relationship to be able to go into.
They
more.
definitely realized what they got with Benedict Wong.
Wong, yeah.
As Wong, yeah. And I definitely, even though like I don't know anything about the next movie, I'm sure he's like a main character like side.
I still find it funny how both we got Benedict Wong and Benedict Cumberbatch, both actors named Benedict. It's like, yeah, well, we're gonna get the Benedicts over here, and we get a little bit of their of Cumberbatch and Wong together in the very beginning of Endgame, or not Endgame, Infinity War. Thank you. So I do want to see more of that, and also pretty much when Benedict Wong shows up, it's like, yeah, help out your boy.
It's gotten to the point where, and we'll discuss this in the Shang-Chi review that had just aired at the time of this recording.
You'll be
No.
able to listen to it at the time that you're viewing.
Thank
this.
you.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see Wong every time he shows up, because for some reason it's always something fun and interesting.
He's new Coulson.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been saying it. I get it.
I'm
I
okay.
get it.
I'm okay with him being new Coulson.
As long as it's always fun and interesting, I'm there. The Tilda Swinton is fine as the ancient one. I
Yeah.
don't think she was great. But
I think she was just as solid as every other time she's played the ancient one.
yeah, I think so too.
Mhm.
Okay, I guess now we can talk about the Watcher.
Yes.
Because I really like the inclusion of the Watcher in this episode. The way he narrates the movie as we know it, and then goes into watching Strange down this dark path, and Strange sensing him, being able to kind of like hear him, and then even being the first time that the Watcher has talked to one of these characters outright in the show.
Because throughout the series, we just see it, like there's this great shot in Fury's Long Day where Coulson's driving down the desert. You see the Watcher up in the clouds.
There's at least one shot like that in every episode.
every
There's at least a shot of the Watcher just staring out and watching, because that's what he does. But actually, when the Watcher interjects, when Strange is doing like his first absorption spell, and he's like, "This is gonna put him down the wrong path. I could warn him, but I doubt he listened to me." And then Strange is like, "Who's there?" And when he actually talks to him, and he just comes out, he's no longer a corporeal form; he's a physical form.
That's an oh shit moment for
That
me.
is an oh shit
Yeah.
moment.
When he was like, I see you, you can stop this, you can save them, and then boom, I
Right.
can't. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
damn.
It's like the second the Watcher just pops up, is like, "You did
His
this
line-
to yourself."
His line is great because Steven's like, "You're a god, you can stop it." He's like, "I'm not a god, and neither are you."
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's so good.
I'm so glad Jeffrey writes
This
the
is
Watcher.
every episode, like we've been getting more and more in the watch of more and more of the Watcher, and like I thought he was gonna like intervene, because I consider this intervening. Talking to someone is him intervening in a way, right?
Yeah.
I figured this wouldn't have happened until much later in the season, or not even at all. So I think it's cool that like we're getting some of that now. Like you're not supposed to be able to see the Watcher unless you have some type of cosmic awareness. So like as Steven's getting stronger, like this is like causing a problem, and then he can actually see this dude. It's very much like Bloodborne with cosmic awareness.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's so cool that they're doing this stuff, like this big ass cosmic Marvel stuff in this small What If show. Like I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so sad. What holy shit.
Yeah, that's part of what I want to talk about too, is like I kept being like, please don't go any further. Like end it here.
Yeah.
End it here. And it ends, and I'm like, dang.
I was so ready for them to do a shitty like low, but like it actually is a happy ending in some way. Like no, they cut it,
Oh, no.
and it's just I love sad endings. I love them.
So, as I keep saying before, as I've said since episode 2 and even episode 3, is that the reason why What If has to work for me is if it truly is different. It truly is a big what if, and then you go down a specific chain of events. This hits all the marks, kind of like what episode 2 did for me.
Right. Yeah.
Because it truly is like, we see it. We see the movie for like less than 30 seconds. It's like, yeah, he did the stuff. You get the whole, you know what happened in Doctor Strange. If you've seen the movie, you know what happens. But after that, this is the big one. This is where shit really starts to hit the fan.
It feels like a Doctor Strange sequel.
Like he gets to the library of Cagliostro, and then he starts absorbing all these.
Thank you. I'm so glad that we go back to the Cagliostro stuff. That's something that they bring back up, and that he finds the page that was ripped out.
the
in
book
the original
thousands
film
of
and
years
everything. Oh,
before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, so everything about this episode, the What If episode, and the way it ends with Strange destroying his universe and being trapped in this crystal ball with no one but himself to blame, is like, thank goodness. Because when the Watcher just pops in, I'm like, please don't do what I think you're gonna do. Oh, he's not gonna do the thing. He's like, he just pretty much just goes up and goes deuces, and is like, enjoy the supper.
He doesn't.
Well, he's
He doesn't.
sad about
And
it.
That's very important. And you were kind of going off there, but like he is really upset. The Watcher's really upset watching this universe die and knowing he can't do anything about it. It's punishing him to watch this universe die, and he can't do anything about it. And I think that's really interesting and great to watch, because I think Jeffrey Wright is incredible in that moment.
You're absolutely right, because he does say, if I could punish you, I would, but can't.
Yeah, I really how did you get onto this conversation? Because I wanted to talk about, there was something before Cagliostro.
I was talking about how, once again, this is another like true what if.
Right. Yeah, I like the idea that the way that I like using the Watcher as a narrative device throughout moments within the show is what we talked about with episode 1. Why episode 1 feels so clunky for a lot of reasons is because they don't utilize the Watcher very
Yeah.
well. And you have this kind of narrative device bringing us through a world, and as Ryan said, it feels like a Doctor Strange sequel, and it's paced well, and and puts a lot in there. So it is able to feel cinematic like Doctor Strange. It able to feel like
It feels packed.
It feels packed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the pacing and the writing of this episode is probably one of the better of the series.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed the character stuff so much into that's really fun, and so that's making me want to say it's my top. But this is a really good episode.
Yeah, it definitely had
Yeah.
more of like an emotional impact. I think.
This episode, I mean, him bringing her back
and then
finally,
and
and
then
then her
dies.
saying, "Steven, what did you do?" and then dying in his arms
That's
as the
even-
whole thing ends is like, oh,
That's
whoa.
even more of a gut punch because I feel that because in the end of the episode, Steven's universe is gone and he's trapped himself in this little crystal bubble, and it's only him and himself. And I just love how the last thing Christine says to him is, "What did you do?"
So sad.
That to me, that's just like more of a gut punch than like saying "I love you" before someone dies. It's just like her feeling terror instead of feeling love.
There was something else I wanted to talk about with the visuals that I really love. It's during the Strange versus Strange fight, when they're when it's all completely dark with the one light source, and then Strange's shadow becomes the dark Doctor
Mhm,
Strange.
mhm.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that looks
yeah.
great.
That was
Yes.
really cool. There's a lot of good magic visuals in this episode. This one's like right up there for episode 2 with me. I mean, episode 3 was fine. I mean, episode 1 was fine. Episode 3 was still pretty good, but this one and episode 2, they're like the standouts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I think this allowed them to showcase what's great about the animation the
Mhm.
most so far on a whole. Like the city backgrounds are gorgeous. Just all the backgrounds continue to be gorgeous, but the animation of the magic, the animation of their movements, the capes, the lighting, it's all so good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, again, like you mentioned, like again, like I love those particle effects. Like you don't really get to see them in like normally in American like animation. So it's like just a big anime fight. It was so dope.
It
I loved
was
it.
dope.
I just realized something that you said or Ryan said. It just clicked in me all of a sudden. The point of the next point of this episode isn't where Christine dies. It is that they never broke up. I didn't
Mhm.
catch that
Mhm.
before. Forget I said anything at the beginning of this episode.
No, it's fine. Yeah, and then her death being the absolute point of this, and things would proceed in their own direction, which would be a different variant that we'd be watching. That wouldn't be too different, but this is altogether entirely
yeah,
a
no
different
matter-
animal because he has to push it.
No matter what, he has to stop Dormammu.
Right.
Yeah. Like this whole episode is just one giant Greek tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
He realized he discovers the
York
power
tragedy.
to go and save Christine. No matter what he does, Christine always has to die. And then he tries to defy the absolute point by trying to break it, and then he destroys his own. It's just a
you guys
grand Greek tragedy.
do you guys realize when the Eye of Agamotto it goes from green to red because he turned it into a reality stone because he's changing reality because it becomes so powerful?
Boy, that would have been really great for someone who's not colorblind.
Sorry.
Oh. I was wondering because you know what that
I
went
do
right over
remember
my
when
head.
it's on fire, though. That's hard to miss.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. But you know what? I did not realize that. Thank
Yeah,
you for
because
that.
he's trying to change reality. Yeah.
I also think
Oh, you
It's
know what?
very-
He killed Thanos.
it's
So good
very
for him.
hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard to do montages in time loop films that aren't comedic, and the montages of him trying to save Christine only get sadder,
Oh yeah.
which is rather impressive because that's not usually easily done.
I also didn't expect because this is like it is a kid show kind of, so like I this is pretty dark for a kid show.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm pretty impressed that they're willing to go this hard and just end it the way they did.
I'm
like,
agree.
I thought the
I was
last-
very pleased.
I thought the last episode, watching all the Avengers die, was dark. I
it's
was
nothing.
wrong.
Yeah, it's nothing.
I'm pretty sure Marvel was sitting in the back, was like, "Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet."
Wait till
Yeah.
the zombies.
They put up this one. And it's like, you wanted dark. Watch
This
Christine.
makes me
die."
think that zombie episode's going to be way darker than I was
Oh,
thinking
hell
it was. I thought it was
yeah.
going to be kind of like, hey, it's fun, it's cool,
That's-
zombies.
Yep.
No, it's not.
I now think, oh, it might actually be real sad.
Yeah.
And if I may, real quick, Brandon, this actually kind of makes me happy because even though episode 3 wasn't like the best ending, they still got like a good, air quotes here, a happy ending. This one, it's like, no, not all these stories are good endings. There's not going to be happy fun times for everyone at the end. Like Stephen Strange, Doctor Strange is alone, destroyed
Yeah.
his own universe.
That's what I was going to say. This is the highest stakes we've seen in the What If series so far.
Mhm.
Where the entire universe is just gone. And I think it's probably also, I guess you can interpret it this way, but I kind of feel like it's the first time we have an ending where it's like, yeah, no follow up, don't follow this up, don't follow the story up. I don't think you need to.
I'm definitely sitting in that bank, and I wish I knew for sure that they wouldn't.
I
Yeah.
see. I don't think they're gonna like follow up on it, but with getting the entire cast back for this episode, like I just wouldn't be shocked if we see like Steven, this is what could happen to you, and like we see like a live action just version of him sitting in that dark crystal.
I mean, that could be. That's what I'm talking about. But like every episode of What If has ended with our heroes with a post credits tease. Essentially, I mean, it's not a post credits tease because before the credits, but we've always seen them like get ready for the next adventure because we're gonna fight back. Like the last episode 3 is Nick Fury finds Captain America.
Yeah.
and
Sure.
teams up with Captain Marvel, so they're gonna
Mhm.
fight back. The first episode ends with them with Captain
Her
Carter
coming out in
Mhm.
the Loki
The
spot.
second episode has the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're gonna
there's,
have to face
yeah,
Ego.
there's nowhere to go in this episode.
But in this episode, where it's just like, yeah, this doesn't have that. It doesn't have that post credits sting of like there could be more stories here.
Right.
This is just this. This is how this universe.
Some stories
is
just end.
gone.
That's nice. That's really nice. Some
Yeah.
stories just end.
And I think that's an interesting choice coming off of 3 consecutive episodes with essentially post credits
Yeah.
stings, and then not for episode 4. I think that's interesting.
I think
kinda-
it's bold.
I kind of like that. I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with it too.
Anything
Are you
else?
okay with it, Sparks?
I loved it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I think we're about good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
What if we ended this episode?
Yeah, so that's What If episode 4. I hope you guys enjoyed that one.
Woo!
Episode 5, we'll figure out when we're getting that one out.
Probably same time as this one.
Well, we'll discuss it. So check out all the other What If Fake Nerds watches in this on this channel, on this playlist. Make sure to like this video. Make sure to subscribe to this channel.
Yes.
You can check out all the other Fake Nerds watch. There's 2 concurrently running right now. There's Star Trek Lower Decks and What If. So check out both of those.
Set your phasers to fun.
I am doing Star Trek Lower Decks with Just a Little Podcast Cookie and downright nerdy Michael
Mhm.
Carls. So that's been a lot of fun. So check that out. There's also Basement Arcade Pause Mini, which just put up 2 episodes recently that you can check out.
Yeah.
Gamescom discussion
Mhm.
Yep.
and a Howard Scott Warshaw
There you go. You got it.
Nice.
interview.
I think it's really cool that Ben got to interview Obadiah Stane.
Looks a lot like Obadiah Stane.
He talks like him too. Built us a Tory in a cave.
So check out both of those episodes. Those exist as audio and video. And you can check out Basement Arcade. There are more shows. There are more Basement Arcade episodes coming. We are recording a lot of them, which Sparks and I discussed earlier. So stay tuned for a lot of those coming out soon. And then there is Fake Nerd Book Club. We're discussing more things when to get that one up soon. And then Animation Station, which is our newest show. New
Choo
episodes
choo.
coming soon. And of course, if you want to check out some of the audio stuff, there's Conversation, which is a show I do where I talk to podcasters and content creators. Next episode coming is Christian Renteria. I'm gonna get that up this week. As this Conversation has gone to a every other week format,
Bi-weekly.
and of course you can check out the Mothership Show. We go live every Sunday to do our live recordings for the Fake Nerd Podcast, where we discuss news, reviews, and book clubs and all the sorts of things. It's basically our general show.
Poopy show.
No, don't say that. You'll hurt its feelings.
Poopy poopies. Poop poop poop.
The Fake Poop Podcast. And you can check out what we just reviewed, which is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And we were probably coming back with a Malignant review.
What'd you call me?
Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Malignant.
Oh, Malignant.
How dare you?
We're coming out with the Malignant review next. So check out all that stuff. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. You can find our social medias, Victor Podcast. We have a Patreon. We have a TeePublic. Both of those are linked below. You can find me at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. Ben.
What if You could find me at BenMac27 on Instagram and Twitter.
Ryan.
DJ Tony Snark everywhere.
Sparks.
You can find me just hoping that this is the trend of the What If episodes going forward.
Every
At Sparks Witty on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty. Only bangers, please.
only bangers allowed.
Once again, I said it already, but whatever. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Until next time we see us, guys, stay fake nerds.
Tony! Oops, all bangers.
Whenever you're ready, Sparks. Oh wait, no, don't do that. Shut up. Be quiet. Hold on. Wait. Shh. Okay. What was that? Now, whenever you're ready.
You good?
Yeah. I
Okay.
just had to remove my name from the bottom of the screen.
Brandon and no one else.